All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be talking about points. It's that simple. We're going to be talking about points. We're going to be talking about your main lake points. We're going to be talking about your secondary points. We're just going to be talking about points in general because I get questions from you guys all the time about how do you go about fishing points. I even get questions about what exactly is a point. I'm kind of confused. So either way, I'm going to cover all that. It's kind of going to be one of those basic things, but I may inform you on some stuff you may not know about points. But either way, stay tuned. It's something you don't want to miss. Let's jump into it. So points, what exactly is a point? So I'm kind of gonna just tell you, and then I'll also pull up a map of a point, like you would see on your charts or anything like that to help you identify it when you're looking at your maps. But either way, a point is an area that starts like at the shoreline and then comes straight out to a point and drops off into deep water. So when you're looking at your map, it'll be flat. It may have a hump or something like that in it, but it's typically flat, and then it's going to slope off on each side and then obviously drop off at the tip. That is what's considered a point, and you'll have these on the main lake, and you'll have these in the backs of creeks, or going to the backs of creeks and stuff like that. And they're great areas, no matter really what time of year, but there's certain times of year where one outshines the other, so we're kind of going to go over that too. So the first one, main lake points. Main lake points is going to be exactly what I just said. There'll be points out on your main lake where typically everybody's driving. When do I typically fish these? Main lake points is going to be really good for me, especially during the summer, especially during the late summer up until really early fall, I guess you could say, when these fish start migrating. And typically, fall and spring, when these fish migrate to spawn or they're just chasing bait fish and stuff, they're going to move to those secondary points, which is those points going back up into the creeks and stuff. And you can use those techniques and strategies that you've learned over time that you typically fish with on the main lake. You can use those in the creeks and stuff like that to target these fish. And typically what I do during the spring and fall, I make up my mind and I say, okay, I'm going to treat this creek that I'm fixing to fish like it is the main lake and ignore everything outside of that. That's one of the easiest ways that I can tell you during the spring and fall to learn how to fish creeks and identify areas that are going to be more productive than others, like transition zones and stuff like that. But that's a whole other video. Now, once again, main lake points, summer, winter, always remember that. Summer and winter, you're going to typically be on your main lake points. Now, this doesn't mean during the spring or during the fall you're not going to catch fish on your main lake points, but they're typically not as productive on most lakes around the US. I'm usually, during the summer, I'm using baits that I can move quickly. I'm trying to get that reaction bite. I'm trying to keep the fish from getting a good look at the bait. So, that's one of the biggest things. A lot of the places that I fish, it's clean, clear water, so you can't really get away with all these like wild colors and stuff like that. So, I'm typically having to fish real natural stuff, and I'm moving those baits quickly and making those fish react because they're not getting a good look at the bait. During the spring and during the fall, as you start going to your main lake points and fishing, that's one of the ways that I identify that something's happening, whether it's that transition where the fish are moving from the main area to the creeks and stuff like that. I'll go to my main lake points, and if they're not productive or I'm not seeing fish on my unit, I'm not seeing fish with my eyes, I'm not seeing birds on the main lake, munching on shad or anything like that, then in my mind that tells me I need to start migrating into the creeks. And that's when I start at the mouths of the creeks and work my way back and try to figure out exactly what's going to be productive. Now, those secondary points is going to be very productive only because these are spots where these fish hold up before they go back to spawn, before they make their way all the way to the back where shad are migrating to also. The shad and the bass are going to use those secondary points like resting zones, I guess you could say. Like if you're going down the interstate or whatever and you see like a rest area on the side and you've been on the road for like 6 or 7 hours, it's an area to stop. It's kind of the same way with fish. It's just an analogy, but either way, it's kind of the same thing with fish. They're going to pull up on these secondary points. They're going to hold until they get to the back or their spawning zones or something like that. Some of these spotted bass and smallmouth will actually spawn on secondary points. So, you know, some of them may not even make their ways to the backs of creeks and stuff. That's the reason I say during the spring, you know, those secondary points and stuff are very productive. There's just a lot of fish that hold. You're gonna have a lot of fish coming to you. You're gonna have a lot of fish coming out away from you, moving back out towards the main lake. Some fish will spawn earlier than others. All these fish doesn't just go on bed, you know, at the same time. Every one of the products that I use, the boat wash, the all-purpose cleaner, the musket especially, comes in big handy. I think it's a great product as far as, you know, just for what I need, keeping everything nice, tidy, and clean, and doing it in a, you know, a quick, efficient way, right? Because I mean, I don't want to get home from being on the water for, you know, 12, 13 hours and then, you know, have to spend 2 more hours just cleaning up everything. So, you know, it just made everything a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. The eco-friendly parts really got me, got a thumbs up for me, especially simply because I want to keep our outdoors clean because that's how I make my living. That's how, you know, me and my family enjoy our spare time also. So guys, I gotta say, I'm Colton with Colton Posey Fishing, and I highly suggest the Salty Captain products to keep my stuff clean. This time of year, right now we're kind of in that early winter here in Alabama. So, you know, our weather's kind of been all over the place. It's finally getting down in the 30s at night. So, you know, I'm noticing a huge push of fish out to the main lake. Now, I'm not catching fish at the backs. I'm not catching fish, you know, kind of in that midway mark. I'm catching them more towards like that quarter all the way to the very, very mouth of a creek. So, you know, the main lake points are going to be very productive early winter. And then, you know, like maybe that first secondary point as you go back in. So, you know, no matter what time of year it is, you know, pay attention to the fishing pressure and stuff like that. And, you know, if your main area is not productive, always work your way into the creeks and stuff and just check your secondary points. You can fish them very quickly. I mean, you can fish the main lake point, crank up your motor, cruise to the secondary point, hit it, put your trolling motor on high, hit your other secondary points in that area. You know, you'll be out of an area typically in 30 minutes or less, just depending on how big the area is. But, you know, as I always say, just cover water with points, especially because you're going to have a lot of people fishing points. It's just the way it's always been. Even when I was a kid, you would roll up, you know, during the summer and everybody's on points, you know, trying to catch fish. So points are very productive, and when the fish want to bite, it's a great way to catch tons of fish, and it's a great way to catch big fish. But, you know, realistically speaking, a lot of people fish them. So, you know, they are tough, but it's a great way to learn how to fish pressured areas, and it's a great thing to know. So, you know, if you're new to points, make sure to give that a try. Let me know down in the comments how it works out for you. If you have any questions or anything like that, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. Also, make sure to check out my sponsors in the description. It would help me out a whole lot. You know, if you buy anything from Thunderhawk Lures or Salty Captain, my codes are down there. They want to give you up to 20% off on all their products and stuff. Thunderhawk makes all different kinds of stuff, from rods to hard baits, glide baits, top water baits. They've got a little bit of everything, soft plastics, and then, you know, Salty Captain, use them to clean all my stuff. I mean, it makes it super easy, super quick, which is one of the main things for me, super affordable, but they still want to give you 15% off. So, you know, you can use my code on that, help you, help me, help them, help everybody. Either way, make sure if you want some cool merch, hats, shirts, stuff like that, check out the store. But either way, guys, everything will be linked down in the description. I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you next time.